The interview began with questions about personal background, starting with where he was born. He explained that he was born in Mamelodi, in a facility they used to call a nursing home, which no longer exists today, although he still has a birth certificate from that place. He then recalled the primary school he attended, simply named primary school, and confirmed the principal at the time. When asked whether he had been baptized, he responded that he had never been baptized. The conversation moved to high school, where he mentioned the principal again, although somewhat uncertainly, and he reiterated that after finishing high school he did not proceed to any tertiary education, nor did he ever work in any formal job. From high school onward, he said, he engaged in informal trading, adding that he grew up in the streets for a long period. Only later, when he was older, did he realize that his mother had passed away. She had been living with albinism and was raped due to the harmful myth that raping an albino person could cure diseases. This trauma caused her to disappear, and when he eventually found her through a friend in 2002, she was terminally ill and died soon after. Throughout that time, he raised himself as a street kid. The interviewer expressed sympathy. He was then asked about having roots in Switzerland, which he confirmed, explaining that his grandmother was originally from a Münster, Germany, though she had no ties to Switzerland. He stated he had no relatives or associations with anyone in Switzerland. When he traveled there, it was because he was invited to the king's birthday by the Queen Mother, whom he knew personally, and he attended the celebration as her guest. The interviewer then asked about an ID that carried his picture and an ID number similar to his. He firmly stated the ID was fabricated, created deliberately so the authorities could deny him bail. He referenced the appeal judgment, which said police could not produce the original fraudulent ID, and also claimed he had traveled to Eswatini using that ID, something he insisted was impossible because an ID is not a travel document and cannot be used to cross borders. He also explained that upon returning from that trip, immigration officials failed to stamp his passport, as well as the passports of his wife and protector. That oversight created the false impression that he could move in and out of the country undetected. The conversation shifted to his resignation from Medicare. He said he resigned because of the allegations circulating about him at the time. People accused him of giving a contract to a slay queen without knowing she was his sister. He felt the allegations were damaging to the company's image, so he resigned temporarily so he could clear his name. Asked why he didn't relinquish his shares as well, he clarified that although he still holds the shares, he made his sister a director so she could act as a placeholder. He admitted openly that he effectively runs the company, can call the shots, and instructs her on what to do, acknowledging that she is essentially fronting for him. The interviewer criticized him, saying that fronting a woman, even if she is his sister, is still wrong because it undermines women's empowerment and creates a false image of a wealthy, powerful businesswoman when in reality she is only a token director. He acknowledged the criticism but maintained that the arrangement was temporary while he clears his name. He was then asked about a situation involving a cell phone in prison. He insisted the phone did not belong to him. He said someone had lent him the phone to check news coverage about himself, and immediately afterward the task force entered his cell and found the device on him. Later that same day, intelligence officers arrived at the prison, which made him suspect the entire situation had been orchestrated to frame him. He was asked why he was placed in a high-security CX unit when prisoners often get caught with phones or drugs but are not placed in such extreme confinement. He believed that the real reasons had little to do with the phone and remain unclear. His alleged association with a man convicted of killing someone named Boswani was brought up. He denied having any relationship or work connection with that individual, even though they are both from Mamelodi. Many people in Mamelodi, he said, believe he is John Wick, a notorious vigilante figure accused of killing people. He denied being John Wick, denied killing anyone, and denied ever being accused of murder. When pressed about efforts to clear his name from this reputation, he said he heard of the accusations while already in CX, where he had no access to the outside world, and therefore could do nothing about it. His focus, he said, was on getting out of prison, claiming he was not called John Wick before imprisonment and has no idea why the label gained traction. The discussion moved to the 14 security personnel who protected him. He said 8 of them were from Special Forces and 1 from Police Task Force, forming a paramilitary-level unit rather than typical VIP protection. He paid each about $100,000 a month. His total security budget was about $2 million monthly, and since his security company made around $2 million, virtually all the income went directly to security expenses. However, he clarified that he uses multiple companies to sustain his lifestyle. The interviewer then relayed a message from Jerry's mother, who begged for her missing son to be returned, believing strongly that he had kidnapped Jerry. He expressed sadness and insisted she was being misled by the same people who put him in prison. He said he was the first person to wake up that night, the first person who searched for Jerry, and that he disagreed with others who wanted to protect Jerry's image by lying to the police. He said he wanted to tell the police the truth because otherwise they would never find Jerry. He insisted he never harmed Jerry, and speaking directly to Jerry's mother, he said Jerry was like a younger brother to him, that they traveled and did many things together, and that he would never harm him. The interviewer emphasized the pain of families with missing loved ones, particularly children waiting for their father to return home. When asked whether he believed Jerry was still alive, he answered with difficulty. He said that kidnappers usually seek ransom, but when a hostage is kept too long they become a financial burden because the kidnappers must pay for food, medicine and shelter. He admitted that based on experience, it is unlikely they would keep someone alive for so long without any financial gain, and that although it is painful, one must add 1 and 1 together and accept that the situation seems hopeless. He was asked whether he went to Jerry's father-in-law asking for ransom money. He said he did visit the father-in-law but not to demand ransom. Instead, he said he volunteered to pay $5 million of his own money if the family could raise the other $5 million, in hopes of securing Jerry's release. The father-in-law refused, saying that if he were kidnapped, he would rather be killed than pay ransom. Speaking to Jerry's abductors, he pleaded for closure, saying that Jerry is diabetic and may not be receiving proper care. He asked them to release Jerry if he is alive, or at least give a sign if something worse has happened, so the family can find peace. The conversation then touched on Julius Moanas. He donated cars to EMPD under conditions of brand awareness and hoped to secure medical response work for officers. Media reports later showed videos of a woman using blue light vehicles reportedly connected to him, but he said those were not his vehicles, explaining he no longer had a relationship with his ex-wife and did not know what she arranged independently. His security had once escorted a DA mayor during a city address because Moanazi convinced the mayor that his team offered elite special forces level protection. Finally, he addressed allegations tied to recordings and meetings involving Minister K. He denied ever paying money or making criminal arrangements. He stated that Minister K had visited his penthouse 3 or 4 times, despite the minister claiming only 2 visits, and that security footage might no longer exist, because residential footage is often deleted after 2 weeks. He also refuted claims he gave $200,000 at a hotel in Durban, saying footage likely no longer existed for similar reasons.